Welcome back to Sports Wagering University. I'm here with Nick Hub. We're going to talk NCAA tournament and make a bit of a bracket breakdown. We'll have some predictions. We'll talk general thoughts about the bracket and how you bet the NCAA tournament. We'll try to keep it somewhat brief here for you. We're not going to break down every game or anything, but we'll talk about some ones that we think might have value and ways that you should look at betting the NCAA tournament. First, Nick, thanks for joining me here today. How are you doing?
Absolutely, Kyle. Always a pleasure. Doing great. Excited. It starts tonight, right? With the play-in game. So, and the NIT starts tonight. I was kind of confused what I was supposed to do last night, what I was supposed to watch. But yeah, I'm excited.
Well, you won't have to worry about what to watch coming up in the days ahead, right? There's going to be plenty of basketball on, and I love it. I know you do as well. Here in about 3 weeks or so, we're going to be really missing basketball.
Yeah,
I am glad that baseball is coming back. That's for a different day, but still.
Yep.
NCAA basketball, one of my favorites. March Madness, my favorite time of the year. So, Nick, I will start out by saying also, everybody check out Sports Wagering University. You can go to sportswageringu.com. You see the link below as well to the Thinkific collections, which has the classes that we've done thus far. We've got college basketball ATS classes that Kiev from the Odds Breakers and Nick did, a totals class that myself and Chris Farley were on there for that. And then we had the general class for college basketball. We also have a market class about the sports betting marketplace. We've had some great reviews about that. So check those out if you haven't already, and then follow Sports Wagering U on TikTok, Twitter, subscribe here on YouTube. But let's get into the breakdown here now. That's why everybody's here, Nick. We're going to talk the NCAA tournament, and let's take a look at the bracket here. And as we look at this bracket, Nick, what are your initial thoughts when we talk about the NCAA tournament and how the committee did this year? Do you think there were any snubs or bad seedings or anything like that?
Yeah, and before I get into that, I want to just touch base on the classes that you just described. We base those off of the end of the season and postseason, so that would be a good thing to look at before you place your bets for the tournament here. But so real quick, just wanted to mention that. Yeah, I don't disagree with too much here. I tend to think that they haven't really took the conference tournaments too seriously when placing these seeds. Like Iowa, I feel like they could have been at least a 3 seed. Duke hasn't been playing too well, but I don't disagree that they're a 2 seed. Virginia Tech, so they won the conference, so they're the 11 seed there. Just looking over this real quickly, I don't believe Wisconsin should be the 3 seed over Iowa in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think, too, you can make an argument that Tennessee should have been a 2 seed based on the way they went through the SEC tournament.
That's another one.
We'll talk about Rick Barnes and his lack of success in the NCAA tournament here in a little bit. But Tennessee probably deserved a 2 seed, maybe even over Duke, but or an Auburn, a team like that. One of them probably should be on a line below, and Tennessee should be above that. I will say, too, I think that Indiana being in the play-in was a surprise. Indiana really played well here at the end of the season. And Indiana was a Jordan Bohannon banked 3 going to overtime with Iowa. I mean, that was clearly just a lucky shot. Indiana was ahead most of that game. And if you think Iowa is that good, it does make you think that the committee didn't really pay too much attention to the conference tournaments. It's like they already kind of locked in their thoughts before we got to those last couple of days. Having said that, I think the bubble was kind of weak, so I don't think there's really any teams that weren't in the tournament that should have been in the tournament. The teams that got in the tournament, they seem fair to me. I think Michigan getting in without having to play a play-in and Indiana not. I understand why Rutgers had to, because they lost to so many bad teams. But Michigan at 17-14, getting in where they did is a surprise to me. Having said that, I think Michigan actually has a chance to win a game or 2 here. Michigan favored against who was it? Michigan has Colorado State.
Colorado State, yep.
Yeah, and I think Michigan should be favored in that game, honestly.
I agree.
The Mountain West has not done very well. in this tournament, and then they would play Tennessee. This is a Michigan team that I think would have a chance against Tennessee.
Mhm.
Tennessee has had many failures in the past under Rick Barnes. So, we look at this bracket and we can generally say that, the two of us have both been more. I've had a lot of people ask me, what's your bracket? I've spent a lot less time trying to figure out what the bracket is
Yeah,
than I have looking at betting, ATS
right.
and totals. I assume you the same, Nick. So I don't know. Have you filled out any brackets yet or not?
No, Kyle, I have not filled a bracket out yet. I've been looking at the starting tonight and up until Friday, these 4 days of individual games. I've been breaking down every single one of them, and so I'll fill out a bracket. I just have not had the time to do one yet.
Yeah, I agree. I'll probably do that on Wednesday night here, kind of
Yeah,
last moment, because I'm
right.
going to focus on getting those bets out there first. I will say there's a couple things that stand out to me as interesting as far as the paths for the teams here. Kansas got the easiest path of the four number one seeds, which is kind of surprising because they certainly weren't the overall top seed.
Right.
I don't think Auburn's great as a two seed. I don't think Wisconsin's great as a three seed, especially with Davis banged up. And then this is a bracket that it seems like Kansas is set up pretty nicely. And Nick, I didn't want to put Kansas in my Final Four, but I don't know who I'm going to put in the Final Four outside of them. Would you agree that that's kind of an easy path for them?
It is, especially the bottom. I would say their biggest competition would be Iowa because
Yeah,
they've been
probably.
playing good defense where they haven't been playing good defense all conference, but they've definitely picked it up lately. So I'd say Iowa's their biggest competition in that bracket.
Which region do you think was the toughest region? Has the most teams that have a chance to make a run?
It's definitely the East, right? With Purdue and Kentucky and Murray State could surprise people too at a 7 seed. Um, you got UCLA, St. Mary's is tough on defense. Um, and then you got Baylor as the 1 seed. So I think that has the most talent, and could be the funnest bracket to watch there.
I think I'd put that one second. I think I'd
Okay.
put the South the toughest with Arizona, Villanova, Tennessee, Illinois. I think is a high upside 4 seed.
Hmm.
So I think that's and who knows about Houston as the 5 seed, but I think
Yeah.
Arizona has a fairly tough path. Villanova is really well coached. Tennessee, maybe not very well coached, but a good team. Um, I don't have any kind of personal vendetta against Rick Barnes, but I'll just go ahead and say that he's won 11-1 against the spread in his last 13 NCAA tournament games. And Nick, I'm not just a trends guy, but I'm not betting on a guy that's won 11-1 against the spread in his last 13.
Yeah.
I'm either betting against him or I'm passing, one of the two.
Yeah. Now,
So
trends is something to look at for sure later in the season. So, yeah, you definitely have to look at that. And I'm with you. I'm not playing anything on Tennessee in this bracket.
so what do you think? Do you see? I know Illinois Chattanooga has been a upset that people consider in the first round. I will say that I don't love Chattanooga's chances in that game. I think Illinois with Coburn and then the guard play that's pretty good. Plummer's a good guard. I think that Illinois is a team that has a high upside, and I don't think Chattanooga will be able to match that if Illinois plays well at all. I kind of think Illinois could make a decent run here, and it wouldn't surprise me. I think there might be some futures value on a team like Illinois. Uh, any thoughts specifically about Illinois, or maybe on like a 4, 5, or 6 seed that you think has some value to make a run here?
No, Illinois has a lot of talent, and I think it comes down to if they're going to make their 3-point shots or not. If they have a bad 3-point shooting game, then they're going to be hindered by that because they shoot a lot of threes. And, a lot like Alabama, whereas they shoot a lot of threes, depend on offensive rebounding. And, if they can't hit a good percentage of 3-pointers and have a team that comes in that's good at defensive rebounding, they could be in trouble. So, Bama and Illinois, I would keep an eye on who's rebounding against them and, you know, who's defending the three better in those matchups.
All right, so we know also, Nick, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I'll start, so I'll give you a little bit of time to think about this.
Okay.
But what about a double-digit seed that could make a run here? Every single year, there's a double-digit seed that gets to the Elite Eight or something like that. So if you look at double-digit seeds that might be able to make a run here, I'm going to tell you a couple that I think at least have a chance. I'm going to go against my Buckeyes here and say I think Loyola Chicago has a chance to make another run. I think the Ramblers are a well-coached team. I think Valentine's done a good job for them. They're kind of rounding into form here at the right time of the year. I like Villanova, so it's not really a fade of Villanova. But in general, if Loyola gets past Ohio State, I think they at least stand a chance against Villanova. And then they probably play Tennessee or Michigan or Colorado State or something. Again, I think Loyola would definitely have a chance in a game like that. So a 10 seed that has a chance to make a decent run there. I think Loyola is one. I also would say Michigan would have a chance to make a run here, even though I don't think Michigan's a great team. They kind of set up on the bracket that they could be able to make a run as well. So there's a 10 and 11 kind of from that same region that I believe at least have a chance. You have any the higher seeds that you think could make a run, Nick?
So one I really like is New Mexico State. I think they match up well in their first game here with UConn. As far as size goes, they're 39th and 42nd in average height, and them and UConn. So I feel like they match up pretty well there. They are 4-0 ATS as a dog, which they will be in every single game, unless Vermont upsets Arkansas, and the two of those go head to head. But I think New Mexico State, with the experience, they've been playing very well, and I like them at as an upset here. Let's see, who would they play? They would meet Gonzaga if they got to the Elite Eight, so that could be very tough. But
Oh, that
I could see them making a run.
Yeah, at that point, their run would likely be over. But
Yeah, yeah,
that'd be a heck of a run if they could do that. Maybe get past UConn and Arkansas or Vermont. That'd be a nice run there for them.
yeah.
As far as other ones that I think at least stand a chance, I've seen stranger things happen than Colgate beating Wisconsin in this one. I think Colgate's kind of a similar team to Wisconsin, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Wisconsin doesn't have the overwhelming firepower on offense. And this isn't really a knock on Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's a really well-coached team, and I do tend to cheer for Wisconsin when they're not playing Ohio State. But Davis is banged up a bit. Colgate's a team that gave Arkansas all sorts of trouble last year. And then Arkansas size, they started killing them on the glass. I don't think Wisconsin has that overwhelming athleticism to where Colgate is just completely overwhelmed. I think they at least stand a chance in that game. I'm not necessarily saying they'd make a deep run, but that's a high or low seed, however you want to say it, a 14 seed that probably has a bit more value than some people believe. As far as some of the other big upsets, we know there's always a 12 or a 13 seed to win. You mentioned New Mexico State. Obviously, South Dakota State is one that's really popular. A lot of people are talking about them over Providence. I do think they have a decent shot in that game with Wilson and all the three-point shooters.
Yeah.
Providence has been so fortunate throughout the course of the season. So let's throw that one out because that one's so popular, 1.5, 2-point spread. It's even though the announcers would say, what a massive upset. We know there wouldn't be that big of an upset. You're not going to get a big money line price on that one. Do you think, do you have any other, 12, 13 seeds that you think maybe could pull that first round upset, Nick?
Yeah, let me take a look here.
I'll say another two. I think that, as far as the 13 seeds, other ones that stand a chance here, I know people like Chattanooga. I'm not a big fan of that one. Vermont, I think, does have a chance against Arkansas. Vermont, a really good offense. Their efficiency is tremendous. They've not won a lot of games in March Madness, but they've been there a lot and been close in a lot of games. And Arkansas is not a great shooting team. If they're missing their threes, I think Vermont certainly stands a chance in that game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the 12 or the 13 seed, you're right on. Can Longwood upset Tennessee? Probably not in the first round, but
Probably not.
I give them a little bit of a lean to to cover that spread.
Yeah.
Chattanooga, I do like Chattanooga to cover the 7-point spread there. I didn't do my notes on that yet, but
Yeah.
and I mean, maybe Wyoming and Indiana against St.
Yeah.
Mary's.
That's
That
where I
could
was
be
going
another
too. Yeah. I think,
possibility with Maldonado for Wyoming, and who's their guy down low
Jackson
that could
Davis
be
for,
a
yeah, yeah.
problem matchup. And
PK for Wyoming, and then Jackson
yeah,
Davis for Indiana.
yep,
Yeah. St. Mary's is a good team that's well coached, but they haven't had a lot of success in the NCAA tournament. They don't have great athleticism. I think, especially Nick, if it's Indiana, Indiana would stand a real solid chance of beating St. Mary's in
yeah,
that game. In fact, I don't even know what the spread would be. I think it might be about pick 'em, maybe St. Mary's
it,
-1.
yeah,
So if you like Indiana tonight, you probably, or in the first game, I should say, then I think you like Indiana in the second game as well. I think they would have a decent shot at that one. So
that's fair.
let's pull this back and kind of look at not just the bracket, but how to bet the NCAA tournament in general. Some general thoughts. I'm going to share screen here and show some of our thoughts here on betting the NCAA tournament. This is from our class that we did at Sports Wagering University. I think it's vitally important that you pick your spots carefully. I know there's so many people this time of the year, Nick, that just they're like, well, it's the NCAA tournament. I got to have action on every single game. And if you do that, first of all, I don't think it's a great idea. Second, if you do that, make them really small bets, the
Right.
pizza bets instead of, 5% of your bankroll or something like that. These lines are really sharp. The odds makers do a great job. They don't make those big gold buildings for no reason. They're definitely good at what they're doing, and a lot of people lose. We're trying to help you get an edge here at SWU, but it's hard to have an edge on every single game. I think the matchup advantages are certainly key, like we had here. And then, the matchups were talked about a lot in the ATS specific class that Nick and Kiev did. So definitely check that class out. I think that has a lot of value this time of the year. But any other thoughts that you have as far as general NCAA tournament tips that people should be thinking about, Nick?
Just that you don't want to use season long stats. You want to look to see what they did recently in the tournament, in their conference tournament, and near the end of the season, because like you've said in the past, Kyle, these teams change game plans, and you can see that they change different tempos, and their style of play can change throughout the year. So you definitely want to look at recent trends, or recent stats, and go off of them instead of the season long stats.
I agree with that. I think also, I pulled up this different slide here where we talk about the talking heads on the major networks kind of drive the markets. So you got to be careful with that, because those public dogs really can get beaten up pretty badly.
Yep.
In fact, fading public dogs, taking favorites of -10 or less, getting 49% or less of the spread bets is 56% ATS since 2006, and a large sample size. So you probably don't want to be on that public underdog that everybody says, hey, this 11 seed is got it. Hey, this 13 seed is going to cover easily. I'd be wary of things like that. You get a couple points of extra value going with the favorite, which, Nick, I know you know this. It's really rare that the public loves the underdog, but early in the NCAA tournament,
Yeah.
that definitely happens. Everybody wants to pick that Cinderella, right?
Yep. Yep. And on the other side too, you got to look at the Dukes, the blue bloods that everybody likes to root for, probably later in the tournament.
Right.
That the books are going to probably put more points on them because they know the public's going to bet them more. So that might be an opportunity to look towards the dog later in the tournament.
Yeah, I think early you look toward fading the public, especially the public underdog, and then later on you look for the team that might be a bit undervalued.
Yeah.
Maybe has had a low cover percentage ATS. We talked about that in our class, that some of these teams that are so public, a Kentucky or a team like that, North Carolina, they can have bad ATS records at times throughout the course of the regular season, but then have good value later on. You can find that with many teams, is that the ATS cover percentage, people use this as predictive. They say, well, a team's 19-9 against the spread so far this year, so I have to bet on them here in the NCAA tournament. I think that's a poor way of looking at it because
Yeah.
Whether they covered the spread in the past really doesn't matter to me. And
Right.
I think Nick's point about recency also is a good thing because what these teams did back in November and December really mean nothing right now.
Right.
What they're doing in March matters a heck of a lot more. So, Nick, I want to give another angle that I think is a really good one. This is a totals angle. I love totals.
Yeah.
Early unders in games involving high seeds. This is seeds 1 through 4 in round of 64 with a total of 137 or higher. The under is 91-50 since
Jeez.
2006 in those games. So, I mean, this is pretty insane.
Yeah.
Definitely something you're going to want to consider when you're betting the round of 64. My theory on that, Nick, is that, those teams that are favored by 18, 20 points, they know they got to play again in a couple days. Why would they run up the score against a bad team? They'd much rather just let their foot off the gas and coast
Right.
to a victory. That's happened quite a bit here recently. Also, it's important to note, and I know Nick knows this, these are neutral sites that these teams are not used to playing at. And it's going to be their first game playing there. They're not used to the shooting backdrop. I also think that contributes to the under. Nick, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. And you want to look at the road stats too. It's not necessarily a road game, but you want to look at home road trends, splits, to get a good angle there. But yeah, going back on these trends, they're good to look at, but you can't look at everything. You can't look at one stat, right? You got to put everything together, all of your resources, get as many resources as you can, and make the best decision that you can just from doing your own research. So that's what I have to say about that, Kyle.
Absolutely. And then we've got a good conferences and bad conferences, ATS in the postseason. You can see that up at the Pac-12 has been killing it here in recent seasons. I mean, for a while they were kind of the laughing stock, and then last year, you remember, you had all the Pac-12 teams. I still can't believe Oregon State made the Elite Eight and then went like 3-28 or something this year.
Yeah.
What are the
Yeah.
odds of that? That's insane. But
Who knows? And could the ACC come out and surprise people since they're the down conference this year, kind of like the Pac-12 was last year, right?
Right. So we've got coaches ATS in the postseason. I'm showing this. Andy Enfield, 24-9. I mean, that's really solid.
Yeah.
I certainly lean toward USC. I haven't bet that one yet, but that's one that I'm looking at. John Calipari, 54-38 against the spread. He probably doesn't get enough credit for how good of a coach he is, X's and O's wise.
Right.
Ray Harper, 22-9. His team's in it here for Jacksonville State. And then as far as bad coaches, you have Rick Barnes at the top of the list. He's won 11-1 in his last 13. He's 22-38 against the spread. Randy Bennett, who I think is a tremendous coach, a really good coach, 21-33 against the spread. I think that's just St. Mary's kind of overachieves in the regular season and then gets up against teams who are better than them late. And then Coach K, 35-44 against the spread. I think that's certainly interesting because, it's Coach K's last year. It's interesting that he shows up on this list. I don't know. I think Coach K is a good coach. Certainly, he's a great recruiter. He gets great talent in there. But, Duke's also a public favorite, like you said.
Yeah.
So they're going to be getting more money on them. ATS, the books are going to have a ton of exposure. I think that's a case where sometimes Duke might just be maybe they're laying 20 points when they ought to be laying 16. Or maybe they're laying 5 points when they ought to be laying 3. So that's a bit difficult to find value betting on a team like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. They probably do have a higher spread than what they actually should have. So,
right.
And he's had 42 years to accumulate that record.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's had some great years where they've won the tournament, but then they've had quite a few disappointments, especially in recent seasons. Duke hasn't had a lot of success. And to be honest, I wouldn't want to pick Duke to win it this year either. So I think that they're not a team that looks like they're going to win it based on their recent play.
Kyle, I wouldn't be surprised if they're out the first weekend, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I sent that out on Twitter. I said it's a bold prediction. They will be done by the first weekend. So we'll see what happens, but I wouldn't
That
be
is a bold
surprised.
prediction. Yeah, I'm bring back up the bracket here real quick because Duke would be playing either Michigan State or Davidson.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, Duke, I don't know if I can pick them to lose to one of those two teams. I do think that Duke doesn't have a very good chance against a team like Texas Tech if they get past that game because
Yeah.
Texas Tech's a really tough matchup for them with that
Yeah.
defense.
Their
So
defense will give them problems for sure.
yeah,
They're
so
just
Nick, we've talked a little bit about how to bet the NCAA tournament from an SWU standpoint, trying to be wise about things. Let's give you and I haven't really talked, we haven't really filled out the brackets yet, but I know people are going to want to know who do you think you're going to put in your final four here, Nick, and who do you think your champion will be?
all right. So yeah, I haven't filled out a bracket, so this is we're just gonna kind of wing it
We're
here.
winging it here.
Um, I I'm a little biased towards the Big Ten. Saying that, I could see Purdue coming out of the East. Um, Purdue or Kentucky. I'm not too high on Baylor. I could see Purdue, whoever wins that Purdue Kentucky game, going to the Final Four because they're both playing well. Kentucky's probably more consistent than Purdue is, especially away from home. So maybe I'm going to change that. I'm going to put Kentucky in the Final Four. Gonzaga, I just don't see other than Texas Tech. Um, can Texas Tech slow them down? I mean, that's going to be a battle of what kind of tempo. If it's a faster tempo, it's going to favor Zags, and if Texas Tech can slow them down, I could see them beating them. But
Can Texas Tech score enough? I mean, because
that's
Gonzaga is going
true.
to be able to score decent. I think Texas Tech's a really good team, but they were great at home. They're not going
Yeah,
to be playing these games at home. I
that's
mean,
true. Yeah,
I,
they haven't been very good on the road. The only game that they were good on the road was against Baylor,
right.
which might have been a fluke there. But yeah, so I'd probably put the Zags in. In the South, Arizona. That's that bracket that you really like, and
Yeah.
I do too. I mean, it's going to be a fun bracket. I would put Arizona. I mean, they're exciting to watch. They're a complete team like the Zags are. And then down below, let's see. I'm not putting Auburn in. I'm not putting Wisconsin in. Not putting Providence. The winner of the Kansas Iowa game. I'm going to put Iowa in
Okay.
the Final Four.
All right.
So
So I will take, like Nick said, we're winging this. I haven't filled out a bracket yet, but I've been asked a lot of times. So I'm going to take Gonzaga in the West. I think it's going to be hard for anybody to beat them. In the East, I'm going to take Kentucky. I do think Kentucky has a really high upside. They got a lot of talent on that team. So
yeah.
I agree with you. I think Kentucky Purdue winner is the Final Four team there. And that team will give Gonzaga trouble. I think that either of those teams would be a tough matchup for
I
Gonzaga.
agree.
In the South, uh, my brain tells me I should be taking Arizona here, Nick, but I don't want to take too many number one seeds. I hate being the guy that takes too much chalk. I'm going to take Illinois here in the South. Illinois could lose the first one or two games, so that's certainly a risky bet. But Nick, we usually do a bracket pool, a family one, and we have one person in our family that just always takes chalk in every single game. And I root against them every single year. You hate that guy that's like, I don't care. I'm just taking the higher ranked team in every single game. I hate that.
Right. Yeah,
I'll
agree.
take Illinois in the South. I will take Kansas in the Midwest.
Okay.
Iowa has a chance. I'm still worried that Iowa's defense is going to be their undoing.
Yeah.
I know they have a lot of good scorers, and their defense has been at least somewhat better. But over the course of the season, a team that's outside the top 75 in Ken Palm defensive efficiency, that concerns me. So I think Iowa will be tripped up by somebody. But as far as my champion, I think I'm going to pick Gonzaga to win it here, Nick.
Okay.
If I had Arizona going that far, Arizona would be one of my options as well. But I think I'm going to take Gonzaga as my champion. You have a quick thought there?
Yeah, I'm going to put Kentucky and Arizona to play in the championship, and I'm with you with Arizona. I think that they can win that game.
All right, that's fair. I do
So
think Gonzaga and Arizona are the two favorite teams here to win it,
yeah, so
and
we're
they
kind
are
of going
favorites.
chalk there, but hey,
Yeah, yeah, no, no. I mean, it's hard for us to come in here and take some, 6 or 7 or 8 seed to win it overall. So
yeah,
uh,
right,
we gave you a couple ones that we think could be upsets, but in general, probably one of the higher seeds is going to win this tournament. So,
yeah.
Nick, it's been fun breaking this down here with you today. And any final things here to add here before we close up?
No, just check out Sports Wagering U at the link right here. Check that out. You'll find courses on college basketball, and like I said, they're based off of postseason, end of season, and postseason. So you'll get a lot of great tips of how to place your bets here for this tournament. And don't forget about the NIT and the CBI, and look at those too, because there's a lot of value in those tournaments.
Absolutely. And Nick, also let people know where they can find your picks and your podcasts and stuff as well.
Absolutely. You can find my website, sportspickhub.com. You can find all of my subscriptions and picks on there. Also at theoddsbreakers.com, you can get a membership subscription on there. Also put out articles. I'll be releasing the East. I'll be taking the East and breaking down every single game in the first round. So look for that at the Odds Breakers. And I do a podcast. I'm probably going to come out with the podcast that typically comes out on Fridays, but I'll probably do this week on Wednesday. Tomorrow I'll probably put one out just because of the game starting Thursday. So
sounds good. So everybody check out all of Nick's work. Nick does a good job, and I would recommend all of his work. You can find my website at huntersportspicks.com, all my plays there. Also, I have a free pick newsletter there at huntersportspicks.com. You can sign up for that, where I'll send some special offers and a lot of free plays that have done really well in the long run. You can follow both of us on Twitter. I'm at Kyle Hunter Picks. Nick, what's your Twitter handle?
Nick Hub Sports.
At Nick
You
Hub
can find me at
Sports.
Nick Hub Sports. Yep.
Also follow at Sports Wager U. Follow Sports Wagering U on TikTok. Go to sportswageringu.com. Check out the Thinkific collections there. If you guys have any feedback, we're always available via Twitter or email. You can reach out to any of us. We're happy to help. So good luck here throughout the course of March Madness, and we'll be back with some thoughts again sometime soon.
That's right. Enjoy it, everybody.
Take care.